Welcome to this edition of Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield. Lots for us to talk about as the markets get ready to head towards the winter doldrums. I don't even want to think about that. But Aaron Bertels is joining us with Crossroads Marketing. And let's start right there. Winter doldrums, it just needs some excitement in this marketplace.
Yeah, with supply not being a big issue today because of the reports that we've seen, and yes, we had a smaller crop, but it wasn't as small as some people were expecting it to be, and they're still waiting to see if acres are going to be an issue in January. But right now, the perception is that we have plenty of supply, right? So with that being the case, and with the lack of demand that we have overall, because either trade deal or just timing or whatever, but we don't have a ton of anything at this point. It's just tough to get anything going. So you stay really range bound, which is what you're seeing here lately. Obviously, beans took a big dive here recently, which, given the fact that we are behind on exports, but we'd had a few good weeks, was a little bit surprising. But you're past, harvest time. You're going through all that stuff. Demand's still behind. It's just a tough time of the year.
It's amazing when we have 245,000 metric ton of beans go to an unknown destination, and the market gets excited about it. That tells you that exports are just way too quiet.
Yeah, they're looking for something, anything. But you and I talked earlier too. Even a trade deal right now at this point, I don't think China's going to jump out and agree to some huge purchase of this big allotment of beans, right? It's already been a sticking point for them. They want to buy beans when they think it's the time to buy beans. From who they want to buy beans from, right? And so I don't think that's going to be a part of the deal. And if it's not, then I just wonder, a trade deal now, what does that really do? Yes, it's great for the future, and yes, it will give confidence to the funds and the people involved, and give them the confidence to buy a market when there's a story, which is what we've seen be a problem, right? We get stories like we had this last summer, but they don't go as far as you expect because of that overarching no trade deal. Are we going to have demand? All those questions. So it'll give us that confidence, but if they're not going to jump in and just buy a whole bunch of beans, which they won't, then yes, it's a confidence booster, but that's about all I see there.
Well, considering where we're at with the trade war, with even USMCA and the harvest that hasn't come out of the ground yet, how does that affect basis? We know the elevators are wanting to get those crops in. They're playing the money game too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of things happening there. One of those is that the crops aren't out of the field, right? So they're not getting quite as many bushels, but the price is also lower. So farmers are trying to hold on, right? They're trying to hold on to see if they can get the benefit of an additional price rally here sometime with one of these reports hopefully being friendly. So it's those two things. They're just trying to pry the grain out of the farmer's hand. Beans are interesting because that farmers typically get rid of beans first, right? Most of them don't like to store beans. That's normally the cash flow thing that gets going first. So the fact that they don't have enough beans right now really kind of tells you a story that may not get fixed anytime soon. The next thing that's going to supply beans to the market may be South America's harvest down the road. So with corn, it's more about just trying to pry it out of their hands.
So how much pressure are we going to see this upcoming December report, the January report, et cetera, from USDA having on this market?
It's going to be a lot, but I worry just about, because everybody's pointing towards this January report as the report, right, that's going to have the harvested acres correct and all, and I just don't know how that's going to be possible. There's a lot of acres out there still, and you're talking 10 million acres, 2.5 million in North Dakota alone. It's going to start getting real cold here next week, so that may help. But if they're not going to come out and say they're not going to harvest these acres, right? They want to harvest. They want to get those acres out of the field. If that's next April, then that's when it is. So I don't see too many of them just saying they're not going to harvest them, and those counting as not harvested acres. So that's going to be still a very tough question, in my opinion, to answer in January.
And finally, we do see that expansion that continues in South America. We know that they've had some weather-related issues, but it's just a little blip on the radar.
Yeah, Argentina's having some dryness concerns. It seems like we go through that a lot, and it's very early down there still, so the market's not going to get too up in arms about this. Brazil is the bigger figurehead there, and every year that competition just ramps up, and if they have a good harvest, you just almost know that every year it's going to be a new record because of the amount of acres that they put in every year. It's additional every single year, right? They grow the size that they're planting every year. So if they have good weather and they have a good harvest, it's a new record, and it's different competition for us down the road.
It's going to make for some interesting times going into 2020.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's been a look at this week's edition of Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield.